Thank you, Brooke. 34th Street in Gainesville has always been known for its abundance of art, but soon it may be known for a Gainesville legend. A Florida Senate bill is looking to rename the street in honor of Tom Petty. The Gainesville native passed away almost 4 months ago. Since then, tributes to his legacy have been popping around town. A mural on 34th Street done by an anonymous artist was one of the first, but within a few weeks, people were spray painting graffiti over it. One artist heard about it on Facebook and immediately got moving.
For me to get up and go out and fix it.
Harrison has been touching up the mural since then, on top of working on his own tribute to the late musician. He's been keeping a secret until now.
I'm personally going to make my mark on Gainesville with that mural over at Import Sales and Service to just let people know that we haven't forgotten about Tom, and I hope other artists do the same.
While Harrison believes a more physical mural like a painting or a sculpture should be approved, he's been happy to see the community coming together. If the bill passes, 34th Street will be renamed Tom Petty Highway beginning in July.
There's a pipeline of students from Stoneman Douglas to the University of Florida, and many of the 283 currently at UF plan to join next month's trip to Washington to call for action. WUFT Samantha Serban attended a campus vigil last night, meeting UF students who feel especially close to the tragedy.
Never again.
I've never seen a community so broken, but so strong.
Zach Zhu is one of nearly 300 UF students who graduated from Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland. He helped organize last night's UF vigil, which attracted hundreds of people. Last Wednesday was a normal day for him at college. His phone was out of power. Normal until he got to his apartment and went online.
I click the link and I see my own high school, and it pans over and I see my house in the distance too.
Coach Aaron Feist, a Parkland hero for saving students, introduced Zhu to weightlifting, his biggest passion in life. And Zhu's best friend will never be able to hug his sister Carmen again. After the losses, Zach knew he could not remain silent.
This is going to be the last time this ever happens anywhere. We live in the greatest country in the world, and kids are afraid to go to class because of incidents like this. That doesn't sound like the greatest country in the world to me.
I love you.
Alyssa Houtman also graduated from Stoneman Douglas and has 2 brothers there now. One was at school when the shooting happened. She waited anxiously just to hear from him.
Just knowing that my little brother, who's a freshman, was locked in a closet for, to him must have felt like forever, indefinitely. And that I was just here in Gainesville, completely removed, and there was absolutely nothing I can do.
Last night, a dozen alumni shared their personal connections to the tragedy and their memories of high school. They're calling for action.
Something, I don't know what it is, but something has to happen.
They're collecting donations through a Venmo account and a GoFundMe page to raise money for the school and for their own trip to DC to call for gun control.
He's only 19 years old and he's able to buy a weapon of mass destruction, and he can't even buy a beer.
Others spoke about mental health issues and tougher screening for gun background checks.
Luke Hoyer, Kara Lofgren.
Never again. Samantha Serban, WUFT News.
The university is hosting another vigil tonight at 7 p.m. in the Plaza of the Americas.
The Alachua County School Board has voted to hire a chief of security and school safety who will oversee all the district's schools.
The decision comes after the school board voted unanimously to ban staff from carrying guns on school grounds. Brooke Azario tells us what other measures they are working on.
Karen McCann worked in Alachua County Public Schools for more than 20 years. Now, as president of the Alachua County Education Association, she's talking to teachers about the issues that matter to them.
I have not heard from one employee who has said that they would like to be a part of the Guardian program.
The Alachua County School Board has opted out of the state program, allowing some staff to carry guns at school. The Guardian program would have taken interested staff members through a 132-hour training process. The program would not be arming full-time teachers, instead putting guns into the hands of other employees.
And that includes media specialists, guidance counselors, deans, behavior resource teachers, coaches, assistant principals and principals, bus drivers, custodians. They're non-instructional.
McCann says arming these staff members could cause problems if a shooter came to campus.
Unless you have some type of identification that you are a safe person with the gun, then who knows who to shoot?
Alachua County Superintendent Karen Clark says school employees should not have to carry that burden.
That's not what they were hired to do. You know, they were hired to do a different job. And since we have such great law enforcement presence already,
Clark wants to use additional school security funding coming from the state
to increase our law enforcement presence to make sure we've got full-time officers in all of our schools.
The county is also bringing back the chief of security and school safety position, in charge of district-wide safety.
The legislature has
McCann says the position will allow teachers to do what they do best.
They're here because they have a passion for teaching and working with children.
That was Brooke Azario reporting.
And King's legacy remains strong in Florida. In 1968, Gainesville Commissioner Charles Gostin was a teenager in Army basic training. He recalls that on April 4th, the drill sergeants called all the African-American soldiers into one room.
A black drill sergeant came in and told us that Dr. King had been assassinated today. I mean, I think every man to a tear was reduced to crying like a baby.
Today, WUFT walked alongside Gostin through Gainesville's MLK Memorial Garden, where he reflected on King's legacy. So far, 41 people are named in the Garden's Hall of Fame for following in King's footsteps to pursue nonviolent social change. Caution tape is keeping park goers away from a creek bank soaked with 600,000 gallons of sewage. Good evening, I'm Ramsey Touchberry.
And I'm Veronica Vernaccio. A Gainesville Nature Park is still not back to normal hours after 2 recent sewage spills. WUFT's Samantha Serbin gives us a closer look at the situation.
It's a beautiful day here at Loblolly Woods Nature Park. However, as you can see by this sign, sewage overflow has kept residents from enjoying this park for a few days now.
There's signs out there now that say, you know, it's unsafe to go in the water.
Jessica Himmelberger lives next to Loblolly Woods Nature Park. She wasn't aware of what was happening in her backyard until she went for her daily walk.
It's my favorite place about this house. You know, I go back there every single day and take a walk through the trail.
6 days ago, a construction accident resulted in a sewage spill that shut down the park.
Thousands of gallons of wastewater were distributed into different creeks in the northwest part of town.
You know, it was terrible smell. I could see it everywhere.
Gainesville Regional Utilities is in charge of the cleanup. Himmelberger is waiting for the caution tape and signs to come down so she can resume her daily routine.
I hope it opens soon because everyone loves it back there. I love it. I go back there every day. So yeah, I hope it opens very soon.
City officials say even after all the wastewater is removed, people should tread carefully.
We strongly recommend that even if there is a creek running through a park, that they stick to the trails and the common use property and the sidewalks that are in place, because they never know what may be in that water.
Water testing was done here yesterday to determine when the park will reopen. However, those results are not yet in. Reporting in Loblolly Woods Nature Park, Samantha Serbin, WUFT News.
Gainesville is not quite done with its spring city election.
For one city commission race, early voting in a runoff will begin this weekend. WUFT's Samantha Serbin joins us from our newsroom with more on the runoff dynamics.
The interest in this race may still be growing. There was an effort for additional registration after the March results. Getting supporters to follow through and actually vote, one way or the other, is key for candidates. Spring runoff elections are a common occurrence in Gainesville. There have been 13 since the year 2000.
During a regular election, if no city candidate or a candidate for a city commission seat receives a majority of the votes, and we describe that by being 50% of the vote plus one vote, then that does trigger a runoff election.
This year, the runoff will decide one race, City Commission District 1, and the choices are down to Gigi Simmons or Charles Gostin. On March 20th, in a three-way race, Simmons received 48% of the vote, Gostin 45%. Both candidates are focused on getting out the vote, since the March turnout was just 12%.
I think you're going to see a higher turnout. I just feel sorry for those folks who will not turn out, who don't feel like their vote counts.
Simmons gave us a statement today saying, "I hope everyone exercises their right. I encourage everyone to think about the future of District 1. Early voting for the runoff begins this Saturday.
Early voting gives people the opportunity to vote on more dates, so it's definitely something that we find beneficial for many people who may not have time on a given Tuesday to go to the polls.
Early voting will end on the 28th of April. Election Day is May 1st. You have to live in District 1 to vote, but there will be multiple early voting locations. The Supervisor of Elections Office, the Millhopper Branch Library, and the Cone Park Library. Samantha Serbin, WUFT News.
A community gathers to honor the lives of 2 fallen deputies.
That's our top story. Today, hundreds attended the services of Sergeant Noel Ramirez and Deputy Taylor Lindsay, who were both shot and killed in Gilchrist County on Thursday.
WUFT's Grace King attended the service where the community is still struggling to cope.
Our brothers and sisters must needlessly die. How many more families will wait at home to hear a key in the door that will never come?
An emotional service.
We just lost 2 more. There's so much meaning, so much anguish, heartache, and grief.
Hundreds coming together to remember Deputy Taylor Lindsay.
Taylor was not taken, he was sent. He had a mission and was exemplary in its fulfillment. He shined a light in a dark, harsh world and thus brightened lives and added joy.
And Sergeant Noel Ramirez.
He was so marvelous, so full of joy. He was an excellent father, a great human being, a hardworking man. Like him, no other.
It's clear that these men were not only members of this community, but part of the Gilchrist County law enforcement family.
Part of a family left in mourning.
Remember, because at the end of the day, guys, we're family. We're family.
Grace King, WUFT News.
After that service at Bell Middle High School, many headed to Bronson Cemetery. The processional took nearly an hour before they arrived for the final service. An honor guard fired off 21 shots as bagpipes played Amazing Grace.
Welcome back. A recent E. coli outbreak has left 42 people hospitalized across the country. Romaine lettuce from Yuma, Arizona has been identified as the source of the problem. WUFT Samantha Serbin joins us live from the newsroom. Samantha, have there been any reported problems here in North Central Florida?
Well, Ramsey, no reports are from North Central Florida, but many consumers are on alert. I also talked to the owner of Frog Song Organics in Hawthorne, and she says it's safest when you know where your produce is coming from.
This is one of our last lettuce plantings for the season.
Amy Van Scoik has co-owned Frog Song Organics with her husband John for 7 years. She grows many variations of lettuce on their 60-acre plot of land. No chemicals or pesticides involved.
You know, I can sell this lettuce all day long because I believe in it, I know how it was produced, and I trust it, and I would feed it to my own family. So, you know, if you ask the growers out in Arizona, I don't know if they would tell you the same thing.
Romaine lettuce has been pulled from shelves across the country after an E. coli outbreak. The tainted greens were traced to Yuma, Arizona. Van Scoik says combining produce from different areas and distributing it is a common cause for outbreaks.
Every step in the processing is another opportunity to introduce some kind of foodborne, you know, bacteria, virus, or other contaminant.
The CDC says it's important to know where your lettuce is coming from. In this case, shopping locally is the best policy.
When you're purchasing lettuce, even if it's at a farmer's market, the #1 thing you can do is to ask the person to verify whether they are actually the grower, and if they're not, where did they source the product from?
But that won't always eliminate the problem.
There have been outbreaks before involving them, and there will be outbreaks in the future.
And take it home and wash it right before you eat it. That's the best precaution that you can take.
Some restaurants have held off on serving romaine lettuce because of this outbreak. Salad Creations, Tropical Smoothie, Daily Green, and PDQ, to name a few. Other restaurants like Designer Greens, Swamp, Panera, and Sweet Berries have verified the romaine they are serving is not from Arizona.
Vendors to guarantee they're not serving Arizona lettuce. Reporting live in the newsroom, Samantha Serbin, WUFT News.
Well, Gainesville is digging deeper into the complaints about Rome towing.
The city may soon approve a test run of new ideas before rewriting the local ordinance. WUFT's Heaven Taylor Wynn has the latest from City Hall.
Gainesville doesn't have a problem with Rome towing. Gainesville had a problem with a particular company.
Michael Weber owns Superior Towing, the new Rome towing king after buying out his competitor, Ultimate Towing. He says there's also a problem with drivers following the rules as posted.
There's no less than 20 signs that tell you that you cannot park there and go to the Swamp restaurant. But yet, every single day, they do it every time.
Today, Weber attended a city commission policy meeting to share his thoughts on new recommendations for Rome towing issues. Above all, Commissioner Adrian Hayes Santos wants to do one thing:
to ban really predatory towing, which is when like spotters are out there. So removing the ability for towing companies to have spotters, and also looking to regulate some of the fees as well.
Weber says there's a problem with banning spotters.
Every single car that parks illegally will be booted. They will have to pay their money.
Other recommendations include having towing offices open 24/7, accepting several payment methods, and more colorful signs. Mayor Lauren Poe suggested a pilot program to test recommendations at key businesses before changing the city ordinance. Heaven Taylor Wynn, WUFT News.